I'm Logan Crawford, and right now on Spotlight, we're taking a look at a book called The Lord's Prayer for Children. It is written by Claire Abraham and illustrated by Dean West, and it simplifies this beautiful prayer for younger audiences with illustrations that emphasize the inclusive nature of faith. This vibrant book introduces each line of the Lord's Prayer in an easily digestible manner, ensuring that children can connect with the essence of their prayers. We're delighted to have this very talented author join us here today on Spotlight. We thank our team at Atticus Publishing for helping us put her in the spotlight today. And we ask viewers like you to support writers like her by subscribing to our channel. Claire, thanks so much for being our guest today on Spotlight.
It's a real pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. This was a wonderful idea. It was wonderfully executed because we grow up hearing the Lord's Prayer, Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. And we don't necessarily know what those words mean, particularly when you're young. Mm-hmm. So I guess that was your inspiration, right?
Right. Well, I will tell you how this came about. Basically, I was working in a preschool. Mm-hmm. And one of my daily duties, because this was a Christian preschool, was to have a Bible and prayer session with them. So I wanted to teach them the Lord's Prayer and realized that while some of them knew it, they didn't understand what they were saying.
Yeah.
And sometimes it was kind of funny to listen to them say it because the words they were saying did not really make any sense. And you could tell they were just being little parrots. And I thought, you know what? I need to find some way to make this accessible to them. Mm. So I went home, and first I looked for books on the internet, and I didn't find anything that really fit what I wanted to do. So I wrote it. Mm. And first I illustrated it with images from the internet, but when I became more and more excited about it, I thought, well, gee, my daughter is a really talented illustrator. I wonder if she'd like to do some pictures for me. So I commissioned her to do some pictures. And she did some pictures, and then I thought, okay, I'll go to Westville and see if I can publish this, at least for the kids in my congregation. Mm-hmm. And it's dedicated to the children of St. Martin in the Fields Episcopal Church in Keller, Texas, because they're the kids that I serve every week.
Wonderful, wonderful. So the kids in that church started reading your prayer?
Well, I've read it to them a couple of times. We're going to have a great big giveaway on Sunday, and I'm going to give it out to all the children and say, basically, this is your book. Yeah. I wrote this for you, and I want you to think about this as being something that I did for you, and to picture yourself as the person on the cover.
Yeah. It's wonderful. Such a great idea. I think it's so wonderful to make this prayer accessible to children. It's important that they understand the words they're saying when they pray, don't you think?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the reason for it entirely.
Yeah.
And I have a background in early elementary education. I've been a teacher. I was a librarian for 25 years. And I did a bunch of programs specifically for younger children, some story times and things like that. So I've worked with children at preschool age for a long time. Mm. And when I stopped being a librarian, I was a preschool teacher for a while. Now I'm working as a AI specialist in a writing component, but I'm still working with my kids at my church every week. And so I just thought I had a lot of background in speaking to children and relating to what they're thinking and how they're working, and found some way to make it developmentally appropriate for them to understand the Lord's Prayer.
Wonderful.
And
wonderful.
Dean threw in a bunch of pictures that show children who have some kind of disability. There's one child who has a cochlear implant in her head, on her ear. There's another one who walks with a cane. Because we wanted to include the idea that God is everywhere and God is everybody, and God is for everybody. she was also very careful to make sure that we had a good mix of all people of all different kinds of ethnicities. Because, as she puts it herself, Dean uses art to convey messages about love, acceptance, and diversity.
Mm. Yeah, it's wonderful. It's also wonderful for children to see other children who have different abilities and realize that they're God's children too, and that they should have empathy for them and understanding and realize that we're all different somehow, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
But we're all connected by God's love.
exactly. Exactly.
And the Lord's Prayer is important because God, Jesus wanted us to focus on the most important things to pray for, because he was thinking about the Pharisees and other people in his area who would use prayer as a way to build themselves up. And so he gets down to the very basics, praising him, making sure we have the food we need, saying we're sorry for our sins, asking for wisdom in helping those who have sinned against us, and then just talking about how much we love him. These are the basic things of the Lord's Prayer, and they're the basic things that all prayers should have. And I just wanted the kids to understand that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because there's a lot of language in there that, you know, even adults might understand, forgive those who trespass against us. So, well, what do you mean by trespass?
Those kids are going to think that it means that you've run across somebody's lawn.
Right, exactly. Exactly. As long as you stay off my lawn, it's okay. But if you do anything else, well, so you're right. People don't understand what those words mean. So you got the idea while you were working at the daycare and listening to children say their prayers. And I guess they were even making up words because they don't know what the word hallowed means and trespass and so forth.
Yes.
Yeah.
As she began with me working at a daycare in Grapevine, but it spread to my church because my church, I'm doing something called Children's Chapel, and I do it every week, where we have a sermon for the adults, but the kids may not be able to sit through that, so they will take the children away from the regular congregation, and I will go and move them to Children's Chapel, and I'll usually retell the gospel or some other one of the lessons we have that day, and then try to break it down to them in kid-friendly language. And one of the things I did was I rewrote the Lord's Prayer, and we don't do it every week, but every so often we'll also do the Lord's Prayer, and I try to tell them what it means. And they're all going to get a copy of this Sunday.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, now that you've written this book and worked with an illustrator and so forth, have you gotten the bug to write other books, or are there other books cooking up here?
I've got an idea for something involving the 23rd Psalm, but we'll see. We'll see. I don't have quite the urgency because I don't feel the same need to explain something that's so very basic to Christianity.
Right. No, the 23rd Psalm is the Lord is my shepherd. There's nothing I shall not want. Yeah. Yeah. Well, that would be a beautiful one to do too, to break it down so children could understand it. And eventually, I guess, even a children's Bible where you could condense it and make it so children can understand some of the stories, and put it to their words. And maybe some adults who don't quite pick up on the language, if it's simplified, it might help them as well.
That would be very ambitious. But who knows what tomorrow may bring.
It's a big book. Yes, exactly. That would be very ambitious. Well, we're glad you took the time to interpret the Lord's Prayer in a way that the children can understand, and also give them wonderful illustrations that'll help them with their empathy that will help them on their spiritual journeys as well. The name of the book is The Lord's Prayer for Children. It is written by Claire Abraham, and it is a wonderful way for children to say their prayers at night or in the afternoon or whenever you say them, and actually understand what they are saying. Claire, thank you.
One more thing.
Sure.
I would like to recommend it as a bedtime story read along, because it's a good way for the mother and father to bond with their children when they're reading the book to them too. So.
Absolutely, absolutely. The prayers that my mother sat on my bed and said with me at night when I was a child are still comforting till this day. So never underestimate the power of prayer, and never underestimate the connection they can have you make with your child. Claire, wonderful work on this. Thank you so much for joining us here today on Spotlight.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. And to the folks at home, I'm Logan Crawford, thanking you for your time this time. Until next time on Spotlight.